Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. It all starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for September 23rd in the year of our Lord 2025. Promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. That's who we are. That's what we do in the traditions of our founding fathers. As you know, we reject revolution. We stand for peaceful restoration of the greatest country on the face of the earth. This is Liberty RoundTable Live. Spread the word, share the love. Check out our incredible network, lovingliberty.net, for incredible talk radio, talk TV around the clock. Hey, welcome to the show. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. A surprise guest coming up very soon. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump is going to address what they call the UN General Assembly in just a few minutes. And it's interesting what he's going to say. They say he's going to talk about how America's great, how America's number one, America First policy, how bringing that back has made such a tremendous difference in the world. How well that's going to go over, only time will tell, because I'm kind of convinced that, you know what? Most of the world isn't excited about the United States focusing on the United States, right? The United Nations wants us to focus on global interests. They want us to focus on how we can give to other countries, financially, militarily. I mean, I can keep going, right? They want America to kind of level out the world. They want to reduce the greatness of the United States. Instead of wanting all boats to rise, if you will, they want to bring down America. Well, they hope that it'll rise them while bringing us down. But you know what? That rarely works. You know, when you're a little kid and you learn to negotiate, you learn skills, you learn how to work with others, you kind of learn to read the room, right? And when you read the room, you kind of learn when to speak and when to shut up, right? When to be quiet. And you kind of learn how that works. And people kind of learn that. Some people learn it better than others. You call it social skills or whatever you want to call it, reading the room. And the reason that I bring this up is because I'm afraid that the room is just the wrong room. You can't go into a room where you're not welcome, where you're not wanted. You say, what, Sam? What do you mean you're not welcome, you're not wanted? We kind of lead the United Nations. Well, here's what they really want us to do. They want us to fund everything. They want to become a global entity of governance in and of itself. And they really want to circumvent the United States. That's what they want to do at the United Nations. So do I really want to walk into a room where they want to take all my money, where they want to basically reduce my status in the world in an effort to raise their status? One of the things that you learn as a little kid, not only to read the room and kind of understand when it's time to talk, when it's time to listen, kind of how to negotiate, where you sit in that room in terms of leadership or whatever. There's also another principle that I think is just as critical, and that is, when are you wanted? And when are you wanted for what? They want us to fund it all. They want us to literally do everything that they cannot do for themselves in an effort to lift themselves up and above the rest of us. I mean, no offense, but the United Nations is an absolute, direct, clear assault, an affront, if you will, to our sovereignty. Okay, there's no value in the United Nations for us at all. You say, Sam, yeah, there is. Come on, you get NATO, you get this, you get that, you get these global agreements, and yeah, what does that do? Does that hammer Russia into silence? No, Russia's just mad because, what, they're not part of it? Different countries become part of it. You create winners and losers. You create this kind of mob mentality, this democracy around the world mentality, where the democracy is greater than the individual nations or parts, breaching sovereignty all over the place. So I appreciate Donald, and I appreciate him trying to walk into the room and tell you how great America is. It's not the right room, Donald. You should learn that as a kid. You're not welcome there unless you just want to give a bunch of money and then sit down and shut up. Right? It reminds me of a little kid. And they're willing to, the older boys are willing to let the young boy play in the soccer game or the baseball game or whatever else, as long as he doesn't bat. As long as he doesn't get the ball, kind of thing. As long as he just kind of hangs around the edges and doesn't cause any problems, doesn't lose the ball, doesn't cost us points, then it's fine. But the second you put the ball in his hands, you go, oh boy, do we have to have this guy on our team? We don't want the worst golfer in the mix with us, or the baseball player that can't hold on to the ball, or the bowler that can't keep it out of the gutter. We don't want that person with us. And that's kind of how they view the United States. They are angry with us because we're successful. They are envious of us because we're successful. They want to meet with us because they believe their boats will rise when they do. They want to use us for our funding, for our, quote, benevolence, for our willingness to care about the rest of the world. In other words, take advantage of our philanthropy, of our kindness, of our Christian beliefs. But to me, what we ought to do is, instead of walking into the United Nations like President Trump wants to do, and then address the UN General Assembly, I think what he should do is he should say, I'm not going to speak at this entity. The United States is pulling out of the United Nations for one simple reason. It's an affront to our God-given sovereignty as a nation. Okay, that's why we're pulling out. We don't have the money. We're broke. We don't have the time. And we believe that the leadership of the United Nations has a different agenda, a completely 180 different agenda from the agenda of the United States of America. One nation under God. Yeah. What do I mean by a different vision, a different understanding, They believe that America and all other nations should eventually kind of capitulate to the United Nations. They believe that when we make agreements with the United Nations, that it really circumvents or upends our own, quote, internal law. In other words, they believe international law is greater than national law. In other words, Congress is sidelined by the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. The courts are sidelined. You get what? The International Criminal Court, the World Court. You get not a Congress, but a bunch of United Nations, quote, member nations deciding, and they become kind of Congress. Everybody gets, so we spend most of the money and get very little of the vote, is the point that I'm getting at here. So where's the checks and balances that the Constitution of the United States calls for, the supreme law of our land calls for? When you sideline our Congress, when you make our president just one in the sea of many votes, and then you capitulate to an international court that doesn't have God at the center, that has government at the center. Think about it from a place of money and decisions, and all those things are being done at a world global level, not at a United States level. So I appreciate President Trump trying to walk in and say, hey, world body, America's great. I'm the leader of it. Look what all we've accomplished. They're not excited about your accomplishments, because the more we promote America first, the more we promote the supreme law of our land, the more we sit as a light on a hill, the more envious and angry and hate-filled they become, because none of their agenda points will be carried out if America's first. In other words, it's a collision course, is the truth. Either we, the people, have America first, replete with the United States Constitution, checks and balances, looking to God, not government, for solutions. Either we're a light on a hill with that viewpoint, or we capitulate to a global body that doesn't believe in our checks and balances. They don't believe in stopping someone from becoming too powerful. Okay, they believe in power. I and the Founding Fathers and those who understand the Founding Fathers don't believe in seeking for power. We seek to pull it down. We basically don't want them to have too much power at all. And that's really the deal. So President Trump, when you address the UN General Assembly in a couple of minutes, I would invite you. Now remember, I'm a self-appointed Trump advisor, so you got to understand, here's my advice for President Trump. Walk in there and just simply stand at the pulpit and say, hey, we believe that the United Nations is an absolute affront to our sovereignty, and we're sick of paying for the whole thing. Why would we pay for the undermining of our rule of law in the United States. Why would we pay for that? So therefore, we're pulling back all of our money. We are exiting the United Nations now. It's truly America first. We're taking America back one heart, one mind, one issue at a time. And no offense to you folks at the United Nations, we don't see a need for you anymore. You've been subversive for, 70 years now or more? And so we're going to negotiate with the world on our own terms from an internal checks and balances, supreme law of the land perspective. Got it? Good. That's my advice to President Donald J. Trump as he prepares to speak to the United Nations. Hang tight, Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Colonel Allen West with us from Dallas, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, Texas is taking the world by storm, and I'm so excited about it. We talked to Allen months ago, and when we did, he highlighted that the machines are just a fiasco, and they have evidence that proved it. Now they're doing something even better. Allen West, welcome back to Liberty Roundtable Live, sir.
Hey, Sam, thanks for having me on. I pray that you're doing well.
No, we're doing so well, sir, except for the fact that we need Donald Trump to pull us out of the United Nations. What do you say to my advice to President Trump?
No, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that when you look at the United Nations, it's just a failed organization that is replete with despots, dictators, autocrats, and theocrats. You know, the fact that you have these idiots there that want to recognize an Islamic terrorist state, that's just totally disconcerting. And so I would, show up and say, that's what you guys want to do, more power to you, but you're not going to do it on the dime of the American taxpayers.
I also submit that the United Nations is a direct affront to our sovereignty as a nation. I mean, what Congress gets sidelined by the UN, right?
Of course. I mean, you look at everything. You look at the World Health Organization. You look at them trying to undermine our Second Amendment rights and definitely our health care rights that we have here in the United States of America, just every aspect of the United Nations. And so this global, world politic, I mean, I would say that the thing that we could just continue to operate in, I mean, we have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which I think Donald Trump has got working a lot better. But, the League of Nations failed, and I think that the United Nations has run its course.
Amen. The reason that I bring this up is Klaus Schwab, before he basically stepped down or whatever at the World Economic Forum, basically said, we won't need people to really vote in elections anymore. AI can do it. For someone speaking out like that at a global level, that alone should tell the tale, shouldn't it, Allen?
Well, it should tell the tale. I mean, when you look at these machine systems that we have and the global, the international connections that they have, the ability for foreign entities to be able to come in and tap into and impact and influence our elections, that's a big concern. We already saw what happens when the United Nations or these global entities get involved with our national sovereignty, as you said, with our border. You can't, I live in Texas, been down there plenty of times. Those folks come across our border did not look like they had been walking for 2,000 miles.
They were babysitted here, that's for sure. The reason I bring this up, though, is you guys proved the election machines several months ago really to not be accurate. Donald Trump came out and said, hey, election machines must meet these certain standards in an executive order. Does that play a role in what you guys have now decided?
Well, it was just common sense what we looked at. I mean, we went back to the November 2024 election. As a matter of fact, when I came in as the Dallas County GOP chairman, I felt that the Dallas County Elections Department, which had never had anything of this nature, needed an outside third-party audit. And, of course, everyone balked at me and what have you, because I brought up the concerns that we had with the e-poll book systems, with the tabulators and things of that nature. And what did we see happen in the November 2024 cycle? Were the e-poll books completely collapsing to the point where in the middle of the election they had to come in and give some a software update patch that, we don't know who verified that. We don't know how secure that was. And it ended up the Texas Secretary of State's office decertified the ES&S e-poll book systems after the fiasco of the 2024 election, where people were disenfranchised. Then we also had the tabulator systems that we use, also from ES&S, that failed their logic and accuracy test. They weren't even close in reconciling themselves, and that was something that the Texas Secretary of State's office had to come down and supervise that before the election even got started. But even after the election, we found that they did not reconcile, those tabulator machines did not reconcile within the state prescribed tolerance level. And for whatever reason, after I think 2 or 3 tries of trying to get them to reconcile, they just went ahead and certified the elections anyhow. So I think that this is about voter
Wait. Isn't that flat out criminal activity to certify anyway? Otherwise, what's the value of a certification? Why not certify all elections forever going forward?
I kind of thought so, but you need to probably have the Texas Secretary of State's office or maybe Governor Abbott on your show to talk about why would you have a county official certifying elections where it was outside the state prescribed tolerance level. So this is why it drove our executive committee to say, let's look at a different way. Let's look at something that we can do better. And we can only affect the primary election on election day. We can't do anything on early voting. So we voted last week, Monday evening, to go to precinct-based, not countywide, precinct-based hand
now,
count.
Can I stop you there and insert, though, when you say go to precinct-based, that's how it used to be, right?
Yes, that's how it used to be. Then all of a sudden, again, everyone comes up with that excuse, well, we're going to make it easier to vote. It's going to be more accommodating. And that's why we have the countywide voting system, which has flaws within itself because it's very hard to track people. I mean, in a county as big as Dallas, someone could pop in and vote somewhere and pop in somewhere else and vote, especially when you had the failing e-poll book system. When you go to precinct level, precinct-based voting, I mean, it's a lot better because those people that are supposed to be voting there in that precinct. And so that's what's going to happen on election day for the primary of next year, which will be the first Tuesday in March of 2026.
So you guys have agreed that you're going to go to the precinct level and you're going to do paper ballots. Is that right?
That is correct. And we're going to run our primary on that election day separate from the Democrats, which I think will also benefit us because we have had a lot of very interesting issues with Democrats, to include a Dallas County commissioner by the name of John Wiley Price, who should probably be in jail anyhow, raising his hand against one of our poll workers, a female.
Raising his hands against, like hitting, you mean?
Yes.
And you're not in jail for that kind of assault? I'm getting lost fast.
Not in Dallas County, where you have a Soros-backed district attorney by the name of John Creuzot, and you have a very weak Dallas County sheriff who, again, is just a pawn of the Democrat Party. So these are the type of things we have to deal with. And so I think that what we have to do is make these incremental gains where we can in Dallas County. And I think that a lot of people should be shocked about what is happening in the major urban population centers in the state of Texas, which Donald Trump won by 15 percentage points. Maybe he won by even more percentage points, but because of what we see happening in Dallas County, in Houston with Harris County, Austin with Travis County, San Antonio with Bexar County, and El Paso County, we've got to correct these things, and this is our first step in Dallas County. And you can go to dallasgop.org/handcount, dallasgop.org/handcount, because we would really like to have the support, because if we're successful in doing this in Dallas County on primary election day next March, this can be a blueprint for the rest of the country.
All right, let me ask you this. People are whining and saying, oh my gosh, we can't hand count. It'll be way too crazy expensive and da-da-da-da-da. I don't get it. If you have volunteers, I don't see how it would be way too expensive. It seems like it would be cheaper than the contracts with the machine companies, wouldn't it?
Yes, and of course there are a lot of people that are tied to the machine companies due to political contributions, things of this nature. They want to keep those machines there. But if you have volunteers, by law you have to pay individuals. But a lot of what we have seen happen previously is some of these volunteers will just give the money back to the party. So we have to account for people's time and compensation thereof. I think it's like $11 to $12 an hour. But if we could get, I think we're looking at about 3,300 volunteers on election day, first Tuesday of next March in Dallas County, to come out and help us to do the hand counting. I think that this will be a great thing for not just Dallas County, but for Texas and the United States of America. And we have capped this at $500,000. If we look at the expenses of this going over $500,000, we'll probably dial it back and just look at hand counting there for the absentee ballots that come in to the central count.
So hand counting is one of the big keys, but the precinct level, and does that mean there's no mail-in ballot at all? Not counting absentee. In other words, if I request a ballot, it's absentee, but just sending out mass mailing of ballots, that's gone, right?
That's gone. That's against the law in the state of Texas. It really is unconstitutional. That whole idea came from Eric Holder back in an article he wrote in April of 2020 in Time magazine. The title was "How Coronavirus Can Permanently Change Elections in America." And that's where you got this whole thing about mail-in ballots, unsolicited mail-in ballots, where they just mail out ballots to an address, and we know how ripe with corruption and fraud that can be. So no, if you're going to vote in person, you do it at early voting, you do it on election day. Otherwise, you can't be there. You have some, viable reason why you can't, or a handicapping thing of this nature. You're supposed to send in a request for an absentee ballot, which has to have signature verification. That was affirmed by the Supreme Court.
Alan, I've got a hard break to take. Are you swamped, or can you stay a little longer?
I can stay a little longer, my friend.
All right. When we come back, then a couple of more quick questions. We'll let you fly. Sorry, there's a little technical difficulties getting you on the video, but we sure appreciate you being with us. Video's new to us, folks, so we're working out some of the little kinks and everything else. Nevertheless, though, the ability to be truth tellers, always one of the big keys, ladies and gentlemen. That's who we are. That's what we do. Yeah, Dallas County going to paper ballots March 26. Details continue in seconds. You're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live, syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Networks, lovingliberty.net. Hang tight.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
We're talking to Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. We're talking about DallasGOP.org/hand count. We're talking about this incredible decision they've made in one of the largest counties in the country. You now have the chance to make history by putting Dallas at the forefront of a return to paper ballots. Dallas County is now the largest county in the U.S. to really accept paper ballots, reject mail-in voting, go to local hand count, paper ballots, and more. It's incredible. The change will be implemented during the primary on March the 3rd, 2026. No electronic systems will be used. So, Alan, I want to understand this. You guys put a cap on this at about $500,000 and said if it costs a lot more than that, it's not, doable at this point. In order to put a number on it like that in a mind like mine, I would say, well, how much does it cost to do it with the machines and the current status quo with all the expenses incurred? Do we have a relative comparison number?
Well, I mean, it's definitely far more, expensive to have those machines and all the maintenance thereof. But, when you look at us, we're still just, a small county party. That's why we'd love to have people supporting us so that we can get to this goal of making this happen for, election day next year and during the primary. But we have to also be, conscious of our constraints and limitations. And so if we can overcome those constraints and limitations, I mean, we're going to press ahead. But you also have to be feasible and do what is feasible and reasonable and achievable. And I think that's why, sitting down with our hand count task force, I said, we've got to put a cap on this, and we can't just sit out and say we're going to do it and ad nauseum, ad infinitum, and the next thing you know, we're not able to get there to that goal and objective. So we have capped it at that, and of course, we have some great benefactors that want to donate to us and make sure that we can stay within those parameters that we can get this accomplished and achieved. I think it'd be a great thing.
I think it's a wise effort to make sure that it's responsible and delivered properly. Do we know how much the elections cost now in comparison?
The thing is, I don't know as far as the machines and that type of thing, but normally it would take us as a county party, and we get refunded some money back from the state, and we get some filing fees, of course, during the primary. But I would say anywhere from up to about 200,000, maybe 150 to 200,000, and a good chunk of that, like I said, gets refunded back to us from the state. But now, when you're saying that you want to move to this process, it is incumbent upon us to go out there and get the necessary personnel and the resources to be able to go out there and have the people that will hand count, and we'll be responsible for the ballots being created.
And that's why they're looking for 3,300 volunteers, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be part of this and you're in Dallas or Dallas County, Texas, go to dallasgop.org/handcount. And right there, you have the opportunity to volunteer and make a difference. I think it's great that you're willing to put, fiscal restraints on this and watch the money. I think that's incredibly wise and careful. I just think that we ought to demand the other side document how much they're costing. Because if you can show that you can do it for 600 grand, not 500, but it costs them $1 million to do it, well, then it's still a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, again, how much are you paying for each one of these machines that are at? I think right now the countywide location is about 450. So think about how many machines are at those 450 locations. And the good thing about us doing the precinct-based, precinct level, is that Texas election law enables us to combine some of these precincts. And so we're looking at about 350 locations. So right there, we have reduced the amount of locations, polling locations.
Because you got to ask, how much does a voting machine cost? If it's 450 locations and they're $1,000, each election, which I don't even know the numbers, but that's already 450,000 folks. It doesn't take long to get there. Is the point, Alan?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then, of course, you have multiple machines at these locations, and then you got the major tabulators that are down in Central County. And that's another one of the things is that, everyone says you're not going to be able to find out, you're not going to be able to produce results. I remember as a kid growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, knowing exactly, Huntley Brinkley would tell us before we went to bed who had won an election. And you'd know in the city of Atlanta who had won an election. We were using hand count paper ballots. So I think that the ability to be able to count those ballots right there in a precinct, full transparency, that's what people want, instead of them being placed in some box and, the chain of custody becomes quite questionable as they have to be transported from these polling locations down to a central count. And that's where the count is done on tabulators that we have proven are flawed and not able to meet their specific criteria. We've already had another failure of the logic and accuracy test of the tabulators for this coming Texas constitutional amendments election, which will be in November.
All right. The only reason I bring this up about the machines is ChatGPT, and I'm not telling you it knows everything, says the costs can vary widely, but it's anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 for the basic machines that print out paper. The literal touchscreen ones cost more like $5,000. That's just per machine. That has nothing to do with the cost of maintenance, the cost of the software, or running elections through them as well. So I wager that it's triple your $500,000 mark to run these machines at the least.
Yeah, and the great thing is that how trustworthy are those machines? How do we know that there's not any chicanery and interference? Because, again, these things are tied into the Internet. And we saw, everyone in Dallas County, what happened with the e-poll book systems, and why can't we just go to a paper poll book registry, which should be verified by our elections department? So, I think this is about getting back to the blocking and tackling. of our electoral process. And for whatever reason, we have people that fear that, and that's a bipartisan issue. But we've got to challenge this system and I think give the people an alternative, that if we can prove that this can be done, then other counties across the United States of America can do it as well.
Amen. The big reason I focus on the money, though, folks, is anybody in their right mind could easily force the comparison and show that it's way less expensive to do it hand count wise. Voting by the precinct was exactly how our founders intended it. At the precinct level, it's kind of like a little redneck town. Everybody knows everybody, Alan.
That's right. And that's how it should be. And, of course, this is something when you have all of these red control counties that we saw overwhelmingly went for President Trump in the last election. They can go ahead and decide to do this completely throughout their county. I mean, we're kind of behind enemy lines in Dallas County. We don't have a single elected Republican in the county leadership there, nobody on county commission, nobody as far as the tax assessor, county clerk, or what have you. So we're kind of having to fight where we can find that gap in which we can fight. And that's why we want to start this on election day in the primary next year and prove this concept, prove that it can be done, and inspire other counties to step up. But for right now, we would love to have people supporting us so that we can actually get this thing done.
Give the website again, sir.
Sure. DallasGOP.org/handcount. But if you want to donate to this effort, please just go to DallasGOP.org and hit the donate button.
All right. We're keeping an eye on this because I think it's a critical testing ground for success. Do you think the redistricting that took place all over Texas will have an effect here too?
Absolutely, it will. As a matter of fact, we have two of those districts right there in Dallas County that will be affected. One of those is Jasmine Crockett's district, and the other is Julie Johnson. So I think that we may be waving bye-bye to them.
We sure pray the answer's yes to that. We hope they have a wonderful life outside of government service. Alan West, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you staying a little extra for us. Anything we've left out you want to mention?
No, God bless you, and thanks so much, Sam, for this. And let's just continue to push ahead. And I think that this is something that, Charlie Kirk, he would love to see something like this happen. And the Turning Point USA chapters and all our young conservatives, please, in Dallas County, you want to be a part of this, go and sign up to be a volunteer for our hand count.
Alan West, tell your team thank you from us at Liberty Roundtable Live, sir.
God be with you. Thank you so much, Sam.
Talk to you soon. We appreciate you. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, everybody. I mean, he's a hero in his own right. He's the chairman of the Dallas County GOP in Texas, but he's also a leader of the American Constitutional Rights Union. I don't know if you know about that, but learn more. It's and then ACRU. I know you think ACLU, but no, this is ACRU.org, theacru.org, or go to dallasgop.org and click on the donate button, or dallasgop.org/handcount to get involved as a volunteer. They need 3,000 plus of you folks. Help us out. Let's get it done. Precinct, paper ballots, you gotta love it. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Incredible talk radio at your fingertips, ladies and gentlemen. If you listen to the radio show, it's 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, best of, or a live show on Saturday if the news warrants. All available at libertyroundtable.com, lovingliberty.net. But then we take that 2 hours and boil it down into our daily TV show, approximately 45 minutes in length, released on YouTube and Rumble and just about everywhere else. Our website as well, libertyroundtable.com, lovingliberty.net. And those shows are available. The TV one is more of a concatenated show, a show where, for example, if we do the 2 hours today on the radio, I want to take the last segment about Charlie Kirk and about Erica Kirk and about my question. Can you find it in your heart to forgive others like Erica Kirk did when she delivered her powerful message about forgiving Charlie's assassin? That's a fair, honest question, right? And President Trump expressing hate for his opponents. I don't want to hate people. I know it's hard to forgive. I know people that have felt really wronged in their lives. I've felt really wronged in my life many a times. And it's easy to hold on to that hate, but you're only hurting yourself when you do that. Understand that. You're only hurting yourself. When you forgive as Christ has invited us all to do, a big weight's lifted off your shoulders. Yeah, I promise you that forgiveness is precious. And when you learn to forgive and learn to let it go and learn to trust Christ, then you begin to heal. And you can say, well, it's that other person that caused it. I know. I don't disagree. We all suffer from the choices, the wrong choices others make. There's no doubt about that. But if we follow the Prince of Peace and learn to forgive, the great atonement of Jesus Christ can then prevail in our lives, and he, the perfect judge of us all, will make all right again. Do you trust Christ that that can happen? If you do, forgiveness is something that you need to work on and wrestle with. If you don't, then you can just turn your back on the message. But I would love the chance to sit down with President Donald Trump. And I would love to talk to him about the vision of Jesus Christ, the message of Christ, the life of Christ. His whole purpose was to live a life of honor and invite us to follow him and do the same. His purpose was to teach us to forgive. His purpose was to teach us the 10 Commandments and the 2 great commandments. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength. And then when it comes to the second one, love thy neighbor as thyself. There's no hate in that whatsoever. You think about the 10 Commandments. Honor thy father and thy mother. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Those are 2 incredible do's that relate to family and God, right? And then the other ones are prohibitions. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not covet. Do not bear false witness, right? Think about what we're talking about there. We also hear, thou shalt have no other gods before me. These are solutions. They're solutions that Charlie Kirk taught. They're solutions that I've been teaching for 30 years as well. And we will continue this message. It's a message of hope. It's a message that, you know what, even though things seem broken, things seem wrong, things seem out of kilter, out of sync, not right, if you trust Christ, you know that he has the power and the perfect judgment, the perfect execution of justice tempered with mercy. And then his quintessential desire to bring us all back to live with him again. There is life after this life. Charlie's wife knows it. I know it. If you don't know it, I hope that you can listen to my words and have hope on my words until you can gain your own testimony, your own understanding, your own witness of these things. But it's critical that we consider. It's critical that we contemplate these things. It's critical that we decide, where do we stand? What are we going to do? If I sat down with President Trump, I would say, I know you hate your enemies, Trump. I know you have hate for your opponents. But I guess, what is an opponent? That's another kind of interesting question for President Trump. Are we just talking about enemies? Let's say that Trump believes that he hates his opponent. Well, if Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk are promoting love and forgiveness, and Trump rejects that, Is Charlie Kirk? Is Erica Kirk? Are they Trump's opponents? I would pray the answer is no. I would predict President Trump would say, well, of course not, Sam. Okay. So how do you define an opponent? Are we just talking about elections here? Are we talking about political philosophies here? Are we talking about liberal versus conservative or whatever? Are we talking about partisan politics? What are we discussing here when we say, quote, I hate my opponents? Sorry, Erica, I hate them. I don't want their best interest. I don't want good to happen to them. Well, remember the saying, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. So I would ask President Trump publicly, I mean, since I am a self-appointed Trump advisor, you know, hey, President Trump, President Donald J. Trump, we love you, my friend. And we don't mean to argue with you. We certainly don't mean to be your opponent, even though we are agreeing to disagree with you agreeably. We don't think of ourselves as opponents. I think of you as a wonderful man doing a great job in many, 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 many cases. When I feel like you're off, it's not because I dislike you. It's not because I hate you. It's because I feel differently for reasons that I would like to always articulate and explain. And in the court of public opinion, I hope you can prove me wrong and I can change my opinion. Or if you can't prove me wrong, that you can see the error of your ways and come to the knowledge of the truth, which is Jesus Christ lives. He suffered. He died on the cross, and he lives to make men free. Oh, yeah. And he's taught us to forgive all men. And then when you think of do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, some say that's karma, some say that's the teachings of Jesus Christ. In the end of the day, Christ, do you want him to consider you a friend? Even though you say you hate people, Christ would teach you that's wrong. But I hope Christ doesn't consider you an opponent. Because then Christ, if we followed that doctrine of Donald Trump, would have to hate you. That, in logic, is blasphemy. Christ does not hate. We say we love the sinner but hate the sin. That's probably accurate. We say when people are wrong, well, look, Jesus Christ even at the Last Supper dipped bread with Judas, who betrayed him with a kiss for 30 pieces of silver. Do you think Jesus Christ can forgive Judas? I don't know. I'm not Jesus Christ. I don't speak for him. But I know this. He's asked me to forgive, and he's asked me to follow him. You think he's going to teach something and not do what he teaches? What the proper repercussions of actions like Judas or actions like the one that killed Charlie Kirk? I don't know how to appropriately adjudicate justice tempered with mercy in those cases. I don't know their hearts. I don't know the whole story. I don't know the state of confusion. For example, this assassin, was he on medication? He certainly was under demonic control, in my humble opinion. Satan loves murder. Christ teaches, thou shalt not kill. And as a result, I'm hoping, President Trump, I'm hoping, my dear friend, you're not an opponent. I'm hoping, President Trump, my dear friend, that you can indeed find it in your heart, like Erica Kirk did after hearing her powerful message that she forgave the murderer of her husband. And I'm hoping that you can do the same, President Trump. And I'm hoping I can do the same. And everyone listening, everyone within the sound of my voice can follow the admonition of Christ and the teachings of Erica Kirk on this incredible topic. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. Hopefully it was educational, entertaining. Hopefully it was helping you contemplate, reflect on your life. I hope you're like a Michael Holmes, who was on with us a couple of weeks ago after Charlie's assassination and basically said, hey, I want to recalibrate my life. We should all want to do that. Let's cleanse the inner vessel. Let's teach others to do the same. Let's forgive and love and follow the Prince of Peace, even Jesus Christ, shall we? I'm Sam Bushman for LovingLiberty.net. God save the Republic of the United States of America.